you feel like cattle, to be honest. It's not the most pleasing thing. Having an opinion about performances is one thing, but opinion about how much you get sold for, which team you get sold for, is quite something else. But we are also the ones exposed to most challenges mentally, as far as mental challenges are concerned. And one of the things I would love to say is that, especially with sports people, that there is strength and power in vulnerability. You just need to be available and be without judgment when someone's sharing something with you. If you feel someone is off, you ask them, "Hey, how are you? Are you okay? Listen, do you want to talk about something?" There is no method to this madness that we call the auction. I cannot imagine the number of kids or the number of boys who are in that Indian team that have gone through mental issues over the last 5 or 6 years.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to this episode of Mind Over Medals, our weekly podcast on athlete mental health. I am your host, Neha Bhardwaj Alter. I will be joined by Amit Kamath, my co host, and today we are talking to a World Cup winning cricketer who has spoken about mental health issues at a time when not many cricketers spoke about it. Hopefully, a lot more athletes who possibly are in a similar situation can take heart from the fact that they are normal, that it's okay to not be okay. Robin Uthappa is here with us. Robin, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us on this. First of all, congratulations. You must be happy with that signing with the Chennai Super Kings. It was a team you said that gave you the security to perform, and we saw what you did in the last season. So must be thrilled right now.
Yeah, very grateful. Thank you, Meha, for the introduction. And yeah, I'm extremely grateful and glad that I'm back at CSK. It was something that I desired, and in fact was one of my only prayers, is that let's get back to CSK. And the family also prayed for the same thing. My son, in fact, prayed for the same thing, which is special for me. And yeah, so happy to be back in a place where I know that there's a sense of security as far as players are concerned, and there's a respect and backing that's given that makes me feel like, man, I can do anything for this franchise.
I've got to ask you this, that I ask all the players, how nervous were you and how crazy are these auctions where, players are being bought and sold?
You know what it feels like, man? It feels like you have written some examination which should have been written like a long time ago, and you're just awaiting the results. You want to know how you've done, and I think it just depends on how it goes for you and where you want to go and how much you want to go for. Honestly, you feel like cattle, to be honest. It's not the most pleasing thing. And then, I think that's the thing about cricket, especially in India. Everything about you is just there for the world to kind of consume, for the nation to kind of consume and then judge and express their opinions about it. Having an opinion about it, having an opinion about performances is one thing, but opinion about how much you get sold for, which team you get sold for, is quite something else. And you can't imagine what the guys who don't get sold go through an experience, right? And that's not pleasant. It can't be. I cannot imagine it to be a pleasant one for anybody. And my heart goes out to guys who've been there in the system for a long time and then miss out, don't get picked. It can be defeating sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what some of the, iconic players who've been part of so many seasons then don't get sold. And I don't know how any algorithm, anything can decide what the price of a player is, what a price of a human being is. So yeah, I get that. You're saying something.
Well, yeah, I think it's more than, I think, price of a human. I think you're tagged as suddenly your value as a cricketer becomes how much people are willing to spend on you, and it's so haphazard. There is no method to this madness that we call the auction. right? People have tried their best to kind of grapple around with it for the last 15 years. And I don't know if they still have a clue, because you speak to a lot of the people who've been at the auction or post the auction, and they say, it's so random. You never know what's going to go. If you'd come later, you'd have probably made more money. And sometimes if you come later and be like, oh, if you came early, there would have been enough of a purse, you would have made more. So it's so haphazard. I really hope that for the sake of the sanity of everybody, that this goes into a draft system where it's more respectful, right? Because with people actually imagine that with a lot of money comes a lot of freedom, which is true. I'll give you that, but it also comes along with the freedom comes a lot of issues as well that one has to grapple with, and it's something that I've had first-hand experience with. And back in 2008 when I got my first IPL contract, and I had at that point for a 20-year-old all the money that I could imagine or never imagined earning that much money at one point, right? And to have actually earned, to actually get that much, you suddenly have, you don't know what to do with that kind of money, and you need the right kind of guidance. And if you don't have that, it can lead to a lot of issues that, will keep you in that loop for possibly a long time, if you don't have the right kind of guidance. And which is, I think, what I experienced as well, which also kind of contributed to everything that I was going through at that point in time. I remember in 2009, I think I was the second highest earning IPL member. Not 2009, 2011. I was the second highest earning IPL member of that auction. And by the end of that year, it didn't matter to me how much money I was making, because what I was going through was far greater than any amounts of money could even, deal with, or I couldn't. It didn't matter to me. When you're suicidal, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank account, how much you're earning. None of that even remotely comes to your mind when you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna jump out at the count of 4. None of those things even just go through your head in any way.
The challenge, though, I have to ask you this. At what point did you, what was going through, and at what point did you feel like, oh my goodness, something is not normal? And what was that thought that sort of started all of this? Can you just tell us? And only if it's not triggering for you.
Oh no, it's something I actually dealt with, so it doesn't trigger me anymore. But for me, it started back in 2008. I just gotten dropped from the Indian team after the Asia Cup in 2008, and I was back at home, and it was just after the first IPL. So mom and dad didn't necessarily have a great marriage, and something that they were dealing with for a long time, and we're trying to keep it together, like a lot of Indian parents try to keep a marriage together for the sake of their children, and their future of the children. But in hindsight, I remember telling my parents at the age of 16 or 17 that, if you guys separate, then, we'll probably, as kids, my sister and I probably have a more peaceful life, But for whatever reason, they weren't able to do that. And I got dropped in July 2000. I think it's just July, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, June or July. We just come back from Pakistan from the Asia Cup, and we lost against Sri Lanka in the final. I was dropped for the next series. And I thought, okay, listen, I got to make another comeback now. So I'm going to spend some time focusing on helping mom and dad with their relationship. Mm-hmm. See if I can, because at that point, a lot of what I was saying and talk, was being heard, which wasn't the case at that point in time. And then what basically happened was I said, okay, I'm going to focus on helping them till November, and then November the Ranji Trophy starts. I'm going to focus on making a comeback from there. And so I got into the whole thing, got right in the middle of the whole thing. And what I thought would be 4 or 5 months ended up becoming 4 years before I knew it. And it just went like that for me. Um, it just blew past me, honestly. Uh, my mom was the first one to kind of see it. She noticed it, and I had spoken to another very close family friend who was extremely loving towards me, and I told her that I'm not feeling all okay in 2009. I think it was mid 2009, or yeah, late 2009, that I wasn't feeling all okay and I felt like something was off. And then my mother, with the help of that aunt of mine, took me to a counselor. Uh, and early 2010, um, I started getting help. End of 2009, and I started getting better, honestly. And started getting so much better that I decided that I needed to move out of home and I needed to start living independently. And by this time, I must have been 23, 24. And my parents at that point would have no part of that, because Indian family, right? South Indian family, and they didn't want me to live outside. But I still managed to do that. I lived outside for the 2010 IPL. And I did really well. I was succeeding, but unfortunately, I got injured at the IPL, and had to go and get a shoulder and finger reconstruction done, and then couldn't kind of live alone. And then my folks kind of used that excuse to bring me back to their place, and then I had to move back and came back home. Came back to my mom and dad. But one of the mistakes I did was I recognized there was a problem. I shared it with my family, the people I trusted at that point in time the most. And I started going to the counselor, which was one of the best things I did in my life, and started seeing results and started seeing progress happening. But as most Indians do, when we have to go through a course of antibiotics, we don't go through the whole course, right?
Yeah.
We somewhere, if it's a 5-day course, somewhere by the third day we feel like, what, I'm feeling fine. I'm going to stop the course, and then we stop the course, and then it comes back a lot harder in a few days, and then you have to redo the course and redo it probably for 7 days or longer, right? And much like that, I did the same thing. I started getting better. I started healing, started addressing a lot of things, and I stopped going to my counselor. And then when it hit me in 2010, 2011, it hit me so hard that I had lost all semblance of myself, all semblance of balance. Honestly, I had no balance whatsoever. I didn't know what I was doing. I was always an emotional eater, and I started leaning on food so much more. I became grossly overweight. I became, as in my colleagues, my teammates were intimidated by me, and because I was so volatile as a person, I was tagged as moody within my Ranji Trophy setup for a few years, and tagged as moody. And you got to be scared. You got to be aware of Robin, and I'd become unpredictable by nature with my behavior. I could be randomly very happy at the beginning of the day, and at the drop of a hat, I'd just be very angry and frustrated and picking on people. And I'd seen that myself. I had no clue over what is happening. I was just going through the flow. And I think in 2011 is when I felt like, no, I need to go back. I need to figure this out. And things got progressively worse at home for me and for mom and dad, and got ugly. And so the whole thing was made me go down into a spiral. And by the end of by the mid of 2011, I was like, you know what, I have two options. I'd either, give up cricket and go to some other part of the world and restart life, and in a place where, at that point, I thought New Zealand. Honestly, I thought I'll just move to New Zealand and restart life with whatever little I have. And the plan was to go start working at a McDonald's and start from there.
Yeah.
Or the other option was to end it all. And I lived with that for over a year. end of 2010 to 2012, honestly. And I think between 2011 and 12 till about June 12 is when I was probably at the worst, where I genuinely seriously considered suicide. The other time I considered suicide very seriously was in 2009 when I had moved. I was made to move from Mumbai Indians to RCB. I was transferred. I was the first transfer along with Zahid Khan and Amish Pandey and all of that. And for me, cricket till then was all about passion and loyalty and all of that. And professionalism in that sense hadn't really come into the picture in Indian cricket in the sense of franchise cricket, right? So when the first trade happened, and the trade happened 3 weeks before the IPL began. So my complete loyalty, was with Mumbai Indians. And then suddenly, even though I'm going back to my home city, I didn't feel loyal to them at all. And I was grappling with that the whole of the IPL. It was a very bad IPL for me. I think outside of one match, I think the match that I played against Mumbai Indians was the only game I scored runs in that IPL. Scored a 70 against them in a game, and that's the only game I performed in. And that year was very suicidal. I remember we were staying at the Sandton Sun, and I would sit, and then I was on the 22nd, 23rd floor, and I would sit by the windowsill with the windows open, and then you could open the windows. And I would just, with my feet dangling out, just thinking, okay, I'm not feeling good. I could just end this all, And I knew I wasn't well, and I knew that something was off at that point in time. So I had my family, as much as things were bad at that point in time, I had my family come over to South Africa on the pretext of, come over and be a great trip for you guys as well. Yeah. But for me, I think subconsciously I wanted them to be over because I didn't want to end up doing something stupid. And but I didn't have the courage to kind of speak to anybody about it. I think it was after that is when my mom recognized that something was off, and then I began seeking help. So these are the two times that I actually kind of seriously kind of dealt with suicide for a period of time. But more in 2011 and 12, I think that whole year and a half was when I kind of dealt with it in a very deep and personal manner. I didn't share it with anybody, and it was hectic. It was challenging. But I think one of the things I recognized was that I need to speak about it. I need to talk to my counselor about it, and she was of immense help to me. And I remember in 2012, the first month of 2012, Sheetal and I we were friends for 5 years by then, 4-5 years by then, and Sheets was my best friend at that time. In fact, I was dating a girl, my ex-girlfriend, and then we just broken up, and then early 2011 she got married. We broke up in 2010, and then early 2010 she got married. That kind of catapulted me even further into depression, and I was dealing with that as well. And then I think at end of 2011, early 2012, I spoke to Sheets and I said, Sheets, I'm done. I have two options. I either finish myself, either commit suicide, or I go to some other part of the world and restart life. And I think it was that conversation that helped me pivot from where I was and move into a journey to where I am today, and which I'm extremely grateful for. And one of the first things we did was discuss mental health and said, okay, what do you want to do? I was grossly overweight at that point in time. I was terribly overweight. And I was 25 maybe, but I looked like I was 40 at that point. I have a picture. I wish I could show that to you. People were like, no, is that you? And then that's the response I generally get. Like, no, that can't be you. And that was dated 1st Jan 2012. So it was that, and that conversation with Sheets that helped me kind of pivot from there and move to a better place, which is again a good 6-month, 8-month journey, and I continue to stay with that. And this time around, when I went through the whole transition of going back to the council, I stayed the course. I didn't cut off from her. I was in touch, constantly I was in touch with her through the period where I made a heal, where I completely went through process of healing myself through everything that I went through. I stayed through the whole course, and mental health is much like that. There's no quick fix to it. You need to stay the course. You need to do the hard yards. You need to find the strength, and oftentimes you find the strength with the help of a counselor, because what a counselor mainly does is helps you get you out of your own way to help yourself. They don't necessarily become, crutches that we can lean on, but they show you how they get you out of your own way to the extent where they show you how strong you actually are and how you can deal with stuff. And that's the most beautiful thing about having a counselor, having someone that you can trust in and share things with, can help with mental health. And that's why I feel like the taboo attached to mental health needs this stigma. We need to remove that completely, because especially in our country, it was so hush when I initially went to the counselor, and I was like, no, the minute I went through the whole process, I was like, why isn't everybody doing this? Why shouldn't everybody do this? Whether you have a problem or not, it's just someone that you're completely unattached to.
Yeah.
You discuss your own life with them, and sometimes for things that you think there is no solution at all, there are actually so many solutions.
Yeah.
And for sometimes where you feel like, man, there is a solution here, I just have to find it. Sometimes the best solution is to walk away, because it's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
And for me, that's why I decided that I'm going to speak about it, because people, I'm going to be a drop in the ocean, but as in every ocean's begins from a single drop, right? So yeah, and today we're a family where Sheetal's a certified life coach. She helps people, especially women. She specializes in helping women with mental health. It's something that I'm very, I'm very attached to. It's something that I consider myself wanting to study and probably do that as well in post cricket. As one of the things I want to do is help as far as mental health is concerned. Definitely with sport. It's something I know that we as sports people deal with a lot more. I believe that as sports people, we are exposed to mental health ups and downs the most, because we are supposed to be the ones to show the most mental fortitude, but we are also the ones exposed to most challenges mentally, as far as mental challenges are concerned, and that can break you down. And I think today, as one of the things I would love to say is that, especially with sports people, that there is strength and power in vulnerability, which growing up was the other way around. Suck it up, deal with it. You don't need to suck it up. You deal with it by talking about it. You deal with it by expressing how you feel. You find one person that you can talk to about it. One person that you completely trust, and then you speak to them about it, and where you know that there's not going to be any judgment. And for people who are there, who are dealing, the family members, friends of aspiring, future sports stars of India, you just need to be available and be without judgment when someone's sharing something with you. And if you can be there, and if you can pay attention to someone's mental health, even I think within our family, I think it doesn't extend just to sports people, but also, but today we're speaking about sports people, so we'd speak more about that. But I think it extends more to even normal people. You feel someone is off, you ask them, hey, how are you? Are you okay? Do you want to talk about something? To have that much empathy as a human being to say, are you okay? Is everything fine? Like, I really hope someone's doing that with Virat Kohli today. Hey, do you want to talk about stuff? Are you okay? Because it's not hard. It's very hard for someone like him. The kind of thoughts that must be going through his mind. Because for someone of his caliber to not score 100 for 3 years, man, the ghosts that he must be dealing with must be immense. And I truly hope someone's, there is someone that he trusts completely, that he is having conversations with. Because these are very lonely battles that sports people go through. I'm just giving you an example of someone like the stature of Virat Kohli, because when you say Virat Kohli, then everyone's listening. But everybody goes through this. There are 14 other guys going through that.
Yeah. Amit?
I'm sorry. On a
Robin, hi, this is Amit.
No, but we like the format to be this way, so we're good. Great. Yes, Amit.
Robin, I wanted to understand from you. You said that you spoke about how important it is to talk to somebody, go to a counselor, or maybe find somebody you trust and talk to them about things that you are going through. Are there other coping mechanisms that you've kind of used through the years, or that you've found, which help you deal with, as you mentioned, getting out of your own way?
No, honestly, because it's quite hard, Amit, because you find yourself in a position where you feel like you have all the answers, and sometimes all the answers are only negative ones. So it's always good to have an external perspective, and that's why I think the need to have someone external is extremely important. And today, I think the world's, in that sense, becoming a lot more accepting. You find a lot of apps where. A lot of platforms where you can talk about this stuff. Earlier, I think back when pre the social media era, there was the Yahoo and MSN messengers where you could just kind of vent stuff out to somebody randomly. But I think it's become a lot more there's a construct to the whole thing right now, and where there's a medium in which you can get help. And in a way, the pandemic has been a boon as far as mental health is concerned, because a lot more people are suddenly exposed to it, and they understand, that this is an important part of life that needs attention as well. You see it with your kids. I saw it with our son. For a year and a half, he was just with us, and we live in a fairly big house, and he had enough place to kind of run around and play, but there weren't any kids. He was alone. He was just with us, right? And we didn't notice this much, but when we went to the IPL last year in Dubai, the second half, which happened in Dubai, suddenly there were about 10 or 12 kids, and overnight Sheetal and I saw Neil's vocabulary quadrupling in 2 days. And he suddenly realized, like, wow, it affects kids like at that age as well. Even they don't speak, and suddenly you give them an avenue where they're with people their own age, and the exposure is there, and suddenly you feel like it affects them as well. So I think that's one of the boons that the pandemic has brought upon us, awareness and attention to mental health. But I think it's very important to speak to someone outside and speak to someone you trust, right? And it could be a best friend, it could be a family member, or it could be a counselor that you develop a relationship with, where and counselors in general are great. Good counselors always get you out of your own way. They don't become a crutch in your life. You will never have to you'll never have to lean on them. You'll always want to go there and empower yourself to figure out solutions to another issue. I think that's the most amazing part of it. And the minute you start exercising that, practicing that over a period of time, that self-belief comes that, hey, okay, this is an issue. Then you empower yourself, you become strong, and you feel like, okay, these are the things I did over a period of time with my counselor. How do I repeat that same process in this kind of an issue? What do I do? What are the questions I need to ask myself to get myself out of my own way, to figure out what solution I have here for this situation?
I've got to ask you this, cricketing ecosystem, how are sports psychologists viewed? Is that something that's now becoming more acceptable? Are players willing to go? Because I once had a conversation with someone from the team, and they said, why would anyone want to go to a sports psychologist when he's part of the team? He's got everything that he wants. And I'm not joking. This was something within the team who said, why would anyone do that? Now, there are two things to it that I find baffling. One being that if you have a problem, you go to a psychologist and you sort it out, or a psychiatrist, depending on the kind of problem that you have. And there how deep that problem is. The other being this idea that because you have everything, and which is what I think a lot of people tend to think, especially with cricketers, you've got everything, you've got fame, you've got money, you're playing for the country, thousands of people, lakhs of Indians want to play for the country. And you wonder that none of these mental issues ever happen because you don't have something. You can be dealing with a mental problem despite having everything. And so how do you react to this?
So for me, I just read a Jim Carrey quote before this session, and he said that I wish and hope that everyone in the world become rich and famous and have all the money in the world, so that they realize that that's not the answer. I think is clearly one of the biggest truth bombs that our society needs today. See, the thing is, in India, in a country like India, where cricket is more than a sport, right? To put it mildly. And okay, there is generally an example that I use, and this I think holds good, very true for cricket in India, where there is less volume of something, the value is always a lot. Where there's a lot of volume for something, the value is less, right? So it's the case in India is, especially Indian cricket, is the volume of exceptionally talented cricketers are so much, are through the roof. So the value for them is always going to be less.
True.
Right? You'll never see cricketers in other parts of the world going through the kind of things that cricketers in India go through. And today, I believe a lot like Bollywood and a lot like that industry, the cricketing industry is probably one of the most insecure ones that we have going around. Because today, especially today, it's not just cricket. It's not just performance. It's viability. It's how viable you are as a commercial product. How sellable you are. What are your social media followers like? What is your social media interaction like? And things that are completely inconsequential to cricket, have nothing to do with the game, still have everything to do with the game. And there is an image that is supposed to be met and kept just to please and show how viable you are to companies and how viable you are as a commercial product. While your main and your primary skills of being a cricketer isn't valued that much. I cannot imagine the number of kids or the number of boys who are in that India team that have gone through mental issues over the last 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
If you look at the way the teams have been chopped and changed, the way the system has functioned, right? And some of these guys are guys who are considered legends, right? Like, for instance, I'm just randomly picking out a name. And this is a well-known name. Say someone like Ravichandran Ashwin. Those 4 years of not being in the side.
Yeah.
For what? He was a very good performer within the side, within the group. Best off spinner we had in the country. Best off spinner, one of the best bowlers in the world, according to ICC rating, and still not figuring in the test squad. Kuldeep Yadav, and the kind of things that he probably grappled with. Only he probably knows. For me, I think having a psychologist is of immense importance in a setup like that. Having an avenue for people to be vulnerable and express what they feel so that they can deal with everything that they're going through is incredibly important, especially at a time like now.
Yeah.
I feel like it's unfair that just because the volume of something is high, that there shouldn't be value. There should be value for that as well, right? We should count our blessings in that sense. And I think it's human nature, I think, which is why diamonds are a lot more valuable than silver is, right? But it's something that needs addressing. I think it's a lot harder to do in a country like ours than to do in smaller countries where the volume's a lot more easier to manage. You have to build a system from the ground up, which will take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And that's something that we have to introduce at a grassroots level. I think from BCCI, if they can introduce mental health from a grassroots level, then it's easier to deal and find and nurture these cricketers. So even if they don't end up having a great career, you're developing stronger individuals,
Yeah.
and that's a feeder system into our nation, right? And to the next generation. So that means you're actually creating a better system for the future generation, and which is what you want.
I mean, I like the fact that Virat Kohli spoke about it. He spoke openly about the issues that he had, especially after that England tour in 2014, where he didn't do well, and he talked about him going through this low phase in his career. Didn't talk specifically about a mental problem, but said that he felt low through the career, because I feel like role models need to speak up, bigger players need to speak up. You talked about insecurity, and that's the other thing, that for a Ben Stokes or a Glenn Maxwell, they can take a break, they might still come back. But in India, you can't afford to take a break. That place in the Indian side is so important. So then
it's easier to get into the Indian team than to keep a spot in the Indian team.
Yeah.
To get a look in is comparatively a lot easier than keeping a spot in that side. And guys like Ben Stokes and Joss Butler and all these guys who decide to take a break for mental health reasons. If they were in India, they could never do it. Never. Because the system is so different. It's so competitive. It's a highly self-motivated system, and it's hard to find purity in the game in a system like that, and those are things that you have to deal with as well. And so for me, and this is not just the players, these sometimes even the support staff need help, right?
Yeah.
Say for example, an instance is the IPL. We at CSK have a sports mind coach here with our side, and he's there not just to help the players but also the support staff, because the pressures of a tournament like that are immense, and the pressures that a lot of these people are exposed to in a country like India, and the pressures that a tournament like the IPL brings are huge. So you need the help. You need an avenue where you can vent your frustration, so that you don't vent it out of the players, where if you do that, then something could go wrong. It could derail your whole pursuit, right? So you need an avenue where you can share what you're feeling, so that when you come back to your squad, when you're dealing with everyone, you're in the right space, you're empowered, and you're dealing with it in a positive and progressive way. And for me, I feel it's the need of the hour. And I feel like we have to build a system from the ground up, and I hope that we can do that. It's something that I'd love to do and be a part of, because we've lost so many cricketers because of issues that they have faced and not been able to overcome. So many. It's a pity that has happened, but it's happened. But we shouldn't want that. That shouldn't happen, and we should find a way where it does not happen. And I feel like it's time to create a system. Maybe if you start now, in 10 years, we'd have a system, because our country is so big and the number of cricketers playing are so many that it would take that long for the system to get up and functional and productive. But we need to start soon.
True. Amit?
Robin, I wanted to understand, just because of your own experience of whatever you've gone through, how much of this whole explaining do you do to your younger teammates? Because cricket is a team game, as opposed to like a shooting or whatever it is. It's an individual pursuit. But in your case, because of whatever you've gone through in your own earlier days, do you kind of actively keep an eye out for you know, signs that somebody is not well? Or do you actually go out of your way to like sit down a younger player and tell them that, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should talk to this, or whatever you earned in the auction is maybe not your correct value, things like that? Do you actually take time out of your own schedule and like sit down and mentor these younger athletes and tell them all of this?
See, I wouldn't comment about, or maybe what you got in the IPL is not your is not your value, because it's also you have to walk a line where you're trying to be helpful, but at the same time you're not trying to be offensive. So that line becomes very thin in cricket, and because it's such a competitive world, and everyone knows that when they come in, that's competitive, right? Everyone's competing with everyone, and it's very seldom that you find people genuinely trying to help someone without an ulterior motive, and so there's the distrust that's also there. So you try and be as genuine as possible. If you notice something, you put an arm around them, you ask them, hey, is everything okay? Do you want to talk about anything? Let me know if you want to talk about anything. I'm right here. You make yourself available to them. But at the end of the day, the choice needs to be that person's to say, hey, yeah, I want to talk about something, right? You can't force something out of somebody unless you kind of share that kind of a proximity of a relationship with them where you feel like you can actually do that. But I feel like you make yourself available. And I think that's what should be done across the board, whether you're a sports person or not. You see someone who's not okay, then you say, hey, is everything okay? If you want to talk about something, I'm right here. Let me know. I'm right here. I'm available. I want to help you if you need anything. And you make yourself available, and that's all you can do. And I think that's what I've tried to do as much as I can. I've tried to help in that sense as much as I can, and you raise awareness, and so by doing stuff like this, people know that there is a genuine and authentic interest from this person who's gone through this, and doesn't necessarily want everyone to go through what he's gone through. So he's there if someone wants to talk. So in that sense, you kind of shed more light on it. And I think the more light you throw on something like this, the less stigma it has. And those are the things that you actually can do. And I think that's what I look to do and try and do.
Amit, you want to ask another question? I've been taking larger bulk of questions.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
No, so I just wanted to ask you about in the team itself, Robin, did you feel that your teammates would understand? Did you ever think of talking to someone? And why I'm saying this is that a lot of times, you feel like because somebody else is going through a similar problem in terms of being not being able to perform well, or not getting along with someone in the team. I don't know. So I'm saying, because we had Anjum Modgil, the shooter, and she said that when she came back after Olympics, she's talking about post-Olympic blues, and she said that a lot of times I did not want to talk to my parents or my relatives or my friends because I felt they didn't understand what I was going through. I felt that talking to a fellow athlete, a fellow shooter, was better because we could talk about similar things, similar fears, similar problems. So did you ever want to talk to anybody in the team, just sort of confess to them that you were going through this?
See, it's a highly insecure environment.
Yeah.
So it's also a highly competitive environment. So the air of it is just thick. So it's very hard to be vulnerable in a place like that. So for me, my suggestion, I think, would always be for anyone in a team sport or individual sport or any sport in that sense, to get a mind coach from the get-go. I've had a mind coach from 2013 onwards, and someone that I trust completely. Whether your mind coach is your skill coach, or whether it's a separate mind coach who's completely only a mind coach. So I had both of them. I had Praveen Ambre when I was in 2013, when Sir and I started working together professionally as a one-on-one coach. The amount of ridiculing that happened to me in that one year period was a lot, because one-on-one coaching in cricket was unheard of, right? you didn't have personal coaches. And when we kind of introduced that system, we were ridiculed for a bit. We were fine with it. And for me,
What kind
I
of
knew
ridicule? Can you explain? Why were
it's
you
like
ridiculed?
because you're like, it was unheard of, right? As in cricket, to have a personal coach was not something that people had at that point in time in 2011 and 12. When Sir and I started working in 2012, July 2012, we started working together, and we set up a system where, I paid him for his services, and he would work with me. And when we set up a system like that, we said that, people are like, oh, this fellow is doing something that tennis players do, where they have personal coaches who travel with them, and Sir would travel with me because I was working on something specific, and Sir would travel with me, and people are like, why are you doing this? And some of the greats of Indian cricket, why are you doing this? Why can't you just trust your own skill and play? Now, I felt that I wanted to do something to improve my skill, and I needed external help to do that. If I chose to go that route, that wasn't respected. That wasn't accepted at that point in time. Forget respected. So it took a while to kind of break that ceiling. And today we see everyone's got their own personal coaches. I can vouch for the fact that everyone in that Indian team has specific coaches that they trust and work with individually. And you go through that period, even say, if you want to, if you want to express yourself in a team environment, it's hard to do it, because even if you have players who you want to share it with, say for instance, the person you want to share it with is your direct competitor for your spot in the 11, how are you going to share it with him? It's going to be hard. So my recommendation or my suggestion would always be to have someone of your own, someone who's necessarily not, or if you have someone in the team, great. If you don't, it's fine. Have someone outside of, like, say, if you don't have a professional within the team who helps the whole team with mental health and dealing with the pressures of international cricket. If you don't, then you have someone personally where you speak to them once in a week, and you have that person who can guide you and help you with the journey of your own career, the ups and downs and the pitfalls and the challenges and the successes and the joys and sorrows of that journey. To have that someone to share it with, whether it's your personal coach who helps you with the skill, whether it's a separate mind coach, whether it's a counselor, whether it's a family member, you need to have someone. Sachin Tendulkar had Ajit Tendulkar do that.
Yeah.
Like, if you see all the greats of Indian cricket, they all had someone that they leaned back on. That went through that journey with them.
Yeah.
And I think as competitive as cricket is today in India, I think in any sport, I think it's unfair to say just cricket, because I think a lot of sports people outside of cricket go through a lot more than cricketers go through, because cricketers have, their basics are met a lot more than a lot of basics in other sports are met, like travel, accommodation. Those are a lot that are at a much higher level than a lot more other sports in India. So I think any sport, for that matter. So I feel like everyone needs to have someone that they can actually speak to, voice their difficulties, vulnerabilities, and their journeys, and share their journeys with, and find that one person. I think that gives you a higher chance of success and having a more balanced and evolving kind of career.
Amit?
Yeah. Robin, I wanted to understand, you mentioned, when you were going through dark times, you had two options. One was
Sorry,
ending
Amit,
it
can you
all.
just speak up?
The second
I'm not
one,
able to
I
hear
think,
you very clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Just if you can just up the volume a bit, please. It's just a little weak.
Sorry. Yeah. So my question is, you spoke about these dark times when you said that you had two options, and one of them was actually quitting everything and moving. If I'm not mistaken, you said New Zealand, and maybe like working in a McDonald's. How seriously was that thought in your mind? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
So we finished the 2011 IPL. I think in 2012, in Jan, I spoke to Sheets and I said, Sheets, I don't want to play the IPL this year. I'm going to stop. I had very clearly in my head decided that that's it. I'm done. It does not matter if I'm going to lose 20 crores over the next 2 years by not playing. It does not matter. I am done because I don't want to do this anymore. I hated who I'd become as a person. I had become a person who wasn't happy with the success of his own teammates, and that was so hard for me to deal with. I went a whole year, Amit, without looking myself in the mirror. All of 2011 to 12, I didn't see myself in the mirror because I was too ashamed to look at myself in the mirror for who I'd become as a person. So for me, in my head, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to play cricket anymore. I want to be alive. I don't want to end my life. I want to at least for me, I was grappling with, I don't want to end it, but I don't want to live this life. So, what's the solution here? And then for me, that's how these two options came to me. And it was my conversation with Sheets at that point in time that pushed me in the direction of, one of the things she said, one of the first questions she asked me when I told her that this is what I want to do, do you love the game? I said, you have no idea. I'm so in love with the game. It's the one thing that I love. And I have clarity about exactly how I feel about the game. So she's like, okay, let's do one thing. Let's stop playing. Let's play for the love of the game and not play to get selected, make a comeback, earn money, play the IPL. Forget all of that. Let's just play cricket for the next 6 months just because you love the game. Can you do that? I said, very reluctantly, yeah, I can do that, but I don't know if I will be able to do it authentically. And she's like, okay, can you do that for me? Let's do it. I'll be with you through the journey, but can you do it? We'll do it together. So I said, okay. And the first thing she asked me after that was, what would be one thing that you would want to change? And I said, have you seen me lately? As in, I would love to lose weight. And she was playing tennis competitively at a point in time. She made a comeback in the tennis and had gone from rank 850 to rank 3 in the country in under 9 months.
Wow.
And so she said, okay, let's work on fixing your weight. I'll put you onto a nutritionist. She put me onto a nutritionist. And she's like, let's just play for the love of the game. And so we conversed a lot. We were there for each other a lot at that point in time. And I'm so grateful that I was there and I was able to share something that if I hadn't shared with Sheets at that point in time, I probably would not be alive now, or I would be Robin Uthappa doing something else, some other part of the world. So it was that conversation and that having her that point in time through that whole process and that journey that helped me kind of rediscover my passion for the game. And I authentically kind of worked on myself and I kind of rediscovered myself as a human being, which was a 2-year process, which was an equally challenging process where I had to go through, I don't know, a lot of insecurities, a lot of doubts, it was an uphill task, but I went through it and I found myself as a person, I reached a place where I didn't know who I was, what I liked, what I didn't like, what my values were, what my principles were in life. And I had to rediscover all of that. And with the help of my counselor, I was able to find all of that and become the man that I am today. And I had to literally earn my own self-respect as a human being. And I think when you have to earn your own self-respect, the standards that you set for yourself are the highest. And I went through the process. And it was a challenging one, but I came out and I found myself. And today I'm very proud of who I am and as a person, as a human being. And I love myself. I respect myself a lot. And I'm extremely grateful for the life that I've been blessed with and I've been able to create with my family. And I completely love myself today. And I think there's no better feeling than that. And I value myself.
I'm sending you a virtual hug right now.
Thanks.
No, this is wonderful. And why I say this is wonderful is because you see that light at the end of the tunnel. And when you do happen to get right there, you realize the person that you are. And you see that you had the strength in you, And that's what is amazing. Like, for all the challenges that you faced, for that phase. In some ways, that phase is what has got you to this place here today, that has made you this incredible person, to have been able to overcome all of that. So
I'm full of quotes, Meha. So I keep saying that you have to be polished for the diamond that you are. And if you're going to be polished, you're going to be polished, then you're going to go through hardships. It's going to be hard, but you're going to come out shining. So, and I'm someone who completely believes in growth, and growth never happens within the comfort zone. Growth always happens outside of the comfort zone. So, and today I'm someone who embraces growth, and I constantly try to push myself outside of my comfort zone, and get into a place where I keep evolving as a human being. And that's become a massive part of my life. And it's a massive part of our family. As a family, we believe in evolution, we believe in growing, we believe in evolving as individuals, as human beings, as a couple, as a family. It's a constant thing in our lives. And we try and meet that standard, and we discuss it very constantly, very openly, quite often. And we keep working towards that. And that's one thing I'd love to say, is that if you want to grow, you're going to have to learn to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's where growth happens. And the minute you grow into that discomfort, and that becomes a part of your comfort zone, and you start living there for a period of time, you'll find another thing that God brings around, or the world brings around, or the universe brings around, whatever you believe in, right? That will help you grow to make another step of evolution of growth. And it's a constant thing. And it'll happen in your relationships, it'll happen in your marriage, it'll happen in your sport, it'll happen in your life, it'll happen in your familial relationships, in every part of your life. With your health, life is always evolving, and you can never change that.
I'm so glad we had this conversation with you, and I'm so glad, and I thank Sheetal for sticking around, for showing you that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel, and you found that light with your family. And I love that little that little story you were telling us about how everybody was praying for you to go back to CSK, given that given that you'd spoken emotionally about the franchise and about how they made you feel like a family. So it's great that you've got this season ahead. I just wanted to ask you, before we wrap this up, what are you looking to do, in terms of the game? You're obviously now, someone who's dealt with all the mental problems, have overcome them, and just talking about the game that you've loved so much, that you love so much. What are your expectations from yourself in the upcoming season?
Well, I think obviously the expectations are obviously to contribute to the success of the team. I think at the very base of it, it's that. I think a lot. I lost a few years of my cricket to mental health, and for me, I think that's one of the reasons my passion for the game today is at such a high level. I feel like I'm 15 years old again, and I'm playing purely for the passion of the game. And I'm absolutely in love with the game. I love every part of it. I love being a part of the team. I love contributing to my teammates. I love adding value in whatever way, shape, or form that I can. I love being in a team environment. I love the hard work that's involved with it, training, practice, whatever's involved. I absolutely am. I'm loving every part of it, and I feel like it's a God-given opportunity for me to be able to make up for those 4 years or 5 years that I missed in what is so-called my prime. And I have this new lease of period where I want to play for as long as I physically can. And that's the intention, to play for as long as I physically can. And God willing, finish the IPL with a team like CSK, and finish my career with a team like CSK. That would be quite unbelievable for me, quite amazing for me, and it's something I'm looking forward to, and definitely winning a few more championships. And that hunger to win championships is so alive, and the commitment towards it is kicking, and it's ongoing, and the commitment to it is always there. And even now, we are 2 months away from the IPL, and we've already been in Bombay for a few weeks, just in training and preparation for the IPL, because I'm just recovering from an injury. And so, it's a process which I'm absolutely loving, and my family is on with the ride with me. So I'm grateful for that as well.
Thank you so much for taking the time out, for really bearing it out for us, what you've gone through. And it takes tremendous amount of courage to be able to talk about it. You've spoken about it in the past, but to talk about it again. And I know where you're coming from when you decide to speak about it, because you want people to know that it's okay to talk about this, that it's okay to feel like this, and it's also okay to seek help.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of speechless, which I'm most often not, but thank you once again. I wish you all the very best for the upcoming season. I'd also like to, thank your family for being there with you, for helping you through this all. And, hopefully this is going to be another great season. I still have that visual running through my mind of after CSK winning the title in Dubai, and you running to your son, or your son running to you after you guys were walking into the hotel. And it was just such a wonderful moment. You pick him up, and they're obviously, everybody's celebrating and congratulating each other. But wonderful to see those pictures as well, and hopefully you can relive those kind of moments this season as well. So Robin Uthappa, thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amit. Thank you, Neha, for having me on the show. I'm so grateful that I had this opportunity to share and be vulnerable again, and discuss stuff that I've overcome and to be where I am today. And thank you for asking me the right questions. I think those are very important as well, to be able to ask the right questions, so that there's an opportunity to speak about the truth. And I'm extremely grateful to my family. I'm also extremely grateful to myself that I chose to be vulnerable with Sheets at the time that I chose to be. And because if I hadn't made that choice, I don't know where I would be right now. So I'm also grateful to God for everything that I have in my life, my family, my son, our child. He's an amazing kid, and I think it's everything that I've ever dreamed of, and I'm living the life that I've dreamt of as a kid. So I'm so happy. I'm in a very happy place in my life. I'm grateful for that. Thank you for allowing me to share my life with you.
Thank you once again. So yes, a perfect note really to end this conversation, where Robin Uthappa talks about how he chose to be vulnerable at the right time, and how that choice has got him out of that dark phase in his life, and that he's looking forward to the upcoming season of the IPL with Chennai Super Kings. But that's it on Mind Over Medals. Next week, we'll be back with another athlete talking about all things mental health. For now, goodbye.